paying Stuart for the week. Can you just tattoo like this half sleeve? And I was like, it's not that easy. I said, but listen, email me. I will absolutely see what I can do.
Live from Livestream Entertainment's mobile studio. It's the best damn internet show. With your host, Ken Hurley. And now, here's your host, Ken Hurley.
And we're live, ladies and gentlemen. What's up? This is Ken Hurley from the Best Damn Internet Show. I'm here with, as always, my co-host, Steven Sperling. Say hello, Steven.
Sperling.
What up, Steve?
Hello, Steven.
I'm here with my special guest today, Chris Blinston, ladies and gentlemen. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, everyone.
That camera right there. Passing live across the internet on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, places like that. This is the Best Damn Internet Show, and this week, you guys have spoken. So I'm absolutely flattered and honored to be here in Chris' chair, one of my oldest and dearest friends. And I thought, what cooler day that off the show by somebody of Chris' caliber to talk to and to do something like this. So this is the deal. I asked you guys at home what you wanted. Whether you wanted a logo, a picture of the logo of the show, or whether you wanted Marley, my cat, which is the coolest cat in the world. And you guys chose Marley. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to walk you through it and tattooed by Chris Blinston. If you don't know who Chris Blinston is, he's been tattooing for, how long have you been tattooing?
Right at 21 years. August, I think it's around 27th, they'll hit 22 years.
Right.
A long time.
A long time, and I've known you almost as long, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we know each other, we're right at about 19 years. Pretty crazy.
About 19 years. We'll get into that in a little bit. But we're going to start. Chris, let them know what we've gone through so far.
All right. I mean, pretty much we've done the basic setup. Everybody's that's ever had a tattoo knows the general setup here. We've got our ink caps and our lubricant of some sort. We've got green soap or dial soap. We've got water. Everything's a sterile field within this area. We've got our drip floss. We've already applied the stencil to Ken's leg after shaving it.
Shaved my leg.
Yeah, yeah. A lot more hair than on people's legs.
Right.
So we've already set all that up, and we're ready to roll just with the tattooing part. As far as what kind of equipment I use, in the 21 years I've been tattooing, we've gone all the way from the old school coil machines, metal tubes, needle bars, and now we're up to more modern designs. Rotary machines I use, tap machines.
So if you missed it, that's a rotary machine. So it runs out of a rotary instead of what this type of machine?
Sure. And the negative and positive effect because they connect.
That's what gets the arm moving down. That go back and forth, which causes the needle to go up and down. So if you know what
yeah. And then so over time, technology is a little teeny bit of difference between being a little bit jiggly and not jiggly. Creates less damage in the skin, makes it heal faster, makes it stay better.
And there you have it. But you still use other type of machines, though, right? I know you still use.
I'll go back and forth to the coils for certain tattoos. For the most part, I'm all rotary now. The other technology too is that we've moved on to disposable everything else. I don't necessarily need an autoclave anymore, which is a huge part of our business. Because everything I'm using is already sterilized.
So what he's saying about that is when you hear a lot of people talk about tattooing back in the days, every piece of that machine would need to get sterilized in an autoclave before you could use it again. And that's these tubes, the
grip,
the grip,
and the needle,
and the needles, which they started making disposable needles back when I started helping Chris. People still made needles. you still made your own, which is a very lost art, I think.
Absolutely.
So nobody does that anymore.
Very few people now that even know even how to get a hold of the product, let alone make the needles. So, you know, when I started 21 years ago, you had to know how to make needles because that's how you made needles.
Yeah, and it was pretty much, and that's the crazy thing. I mean, you know, I'm no tattooist, but being in the scene like I was, it's most of the guys that I knew. It's like you'd call them, we like call Chris and be like, hey man, we're gonna ready to go out Friday. Nah man, I gotta sit around, I gotta make needles. Or I've got like a bunch of stuff I've got to clean, I got to autoclave. So nowadays it's just, I buy packs of 20 of different grips, buy packs of 20 of whatever, and it just throw them away when you're done. So that's crazy. So have cost effective wise, what do you think is more cost effective? Back the old school way?
Yeah, the old school way is still more cost effective. You know, this because the technology's new. You know, these new needles called cartridge systems. You literally have these different needle sizes. So I have a 3 in there, a 15, a 14. You know, different size needles, and you just pop them in and out. It's that simple. But right now, because the technology's new, and they're literally coming from the same 4 factories in China.
Wow,
that's no joke.
That's
Even
it,
though
huh?
there's multiple brands, it's the same people. You know, that's the little known fact about it. These things are running about $1.10, $1.20 per cartridge. If you were making your own needles in the old day, 10 cents.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. A little soldering and everything. But anyways, that's a little history on this kind of stuff that he uses. So we've already went ahead and went and laid the stencil. So we're going to go ahead and get started getting tattooed while we talk. What we usually do at the very beginning of the show, we talk, Steve and I talk about like current events of things that are happening. And I think the only thing I really want to talk about is Marvel and Game of Thrones. What about you, Steve?
Nice.
Chris doesn't watch either one of those, by the way.
I do not watch either one of those, but I respect those that do. I really do. So, for you Game of Thrones, apparently you've started a whole new season, so I'm sure you're very excited.
Steve?
So, all right, so getting started here. I have a couple of sponsors. So
I don't watch Game of Thrones either.
Well, hold on. We're getting into the sponsor part of the show. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple of sponsors, which just means I'm just telling you the equipment I'm using. So you got the Neotast, but I also use Helios needles, and I use Eternal Link. So for those people out there that like to watch and know what I'm using for products, that's my products. I haven't been sponsored by those companies.
Hashtag Eternal Link and hashtag Helios.
That's it.
There you go, for those in the know. Shout out
How
to
about
both
Dial
those guys.
Soap? Are they sponsoring you?
Dials, they are not sponsoring me. If anybody who's been around me in the past week, they know that Ken needs a shower. But so Chris went ahead and put Vaseline. Is that what you did?
That is Vaseline. I'm still old school with the Vaseline. For me, you know, the new salves, I'm not a big fan.
Everybody
of anything.
makes one now, right? It's
Everybody
like,
makes
it seems
one.
like everybody has an organic salve or a.
Well,
I
the new
noticed
big
that was
thing
a big
is
deal.
the CBD oil. Everybody's throwing that in everything. So.
I knew it would happen.
Yeah, funny enough, but funny enough, that actually works pretty well. The problem they haven't perfected yet is that the CBD oil is such a good product that it actually sucks that stem cell right off your body. So
No way.
Yeah, they got to make it so that it won't mess with that. But they're almost there, almost there.
Well, that's crazy. CBD oil. It seems like that's a common thing that we always talk about somehow through our show.
Yeah. Somehow this is the pot show. I don't know how that happens.
That's it.
Well, people who know me may, I don't know. Anyway, so it's probably my fault.
So
All right,
people
Chris.
who know you are not surprised that it's the pot show and not the soap show.
No, absolutely. Yeah, not the alcohol show, definitely. My first guest that we ever had on the show was a lady who, she was just a regular business lady who got into investing in marijuana, as far as marijuana products through the stock market. So she was showing how lucrative it was. That's like marijuana companies are trading at 700% faster and quicker than most of the companies currently on the stock market.
Yeah,
like they're it's crazy how fast it's blowing up.
Yeah.
And she's not even in the marijuana culture. She's just somebody who noticed the huge trend, and like she's making money at it. So
yeah, I mean, I would say that market itself is kind of invaded everybody's life in one way or another. I have multiple clients. One particular one that's a multimillionaire that has now left his club business and moved back to Michigan to open up grow houses. You know, I mean, everybody knows
nuts,
somebody.
isn't it?
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, Texas, it's not even illegal in Texas, but Texas opened it up to where you can grow in Texas.
Yeah.
So those companies could go in and grow on all that millions of acres of land that nobody's using. So if you heard it, that's the machine. He just turned it on. So that's the rotary machine.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the bigger differences on a rotary versus a coil. Is it's pretty much silent. You know, back when we were younger, a lot of us did not like the fact that the experimental rotary machines were quiet. We thought it felt weird, but we're so used to it now that when we hear sounds, it actually feels funny.
Smoother too.
Yeah, much smoother. The other funny thing that's a weird anomaly that nobody thought of is that, you know, back when you walked into a tattoo shop, you smelled that signature green soap smell, and then you had that rock and roll sound. You also had the clack clack of the, you know, dozen coil machines running at the same time.
buzz,
And now
right.
you walk into tattoo machines and it's almost like a yoga studio. It's like silent. So we've had to find other ways to make noise just so we don't sound like it's dead in here.
I don't know, man. I kind of miss the clack, clack, clack. I actually, from getting tattooed right now, I don't miss the clack, clack, clack. It's pretty smooth as butter, actually.
I'm just disappointed that this new technology is not going to cause you much pain. I thought
Thanks,
the whole
Steve.
point was to torture you.
Yeah,
I thought that
well,
was
trust
the
me,
whole
man.
point.
We're just getting started.
Yeah, and I assure you that that little needle on the inside of that cartridge is the same needle. As the
Yeah,
other
it's the
one.
same sharpness as the needle that
That's
comes out of
right.
the other one.
It is still a needle. So that's the funny thing about it. You can increase all the technology you want until somebody invents a new whole completely different way. This is still taking a needle into the, you know, at least 2/3 of the skin layers, and then, you know, kind of depositing ink into the skin, and that requires a sharp needle. So there's no way around that.
What's funny is that somebody asked me the other day, is like, what do you think about, they said robots can now administer tattoos. And I said, that's not surprising at all.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
it really isn't surprising at all. I mean, there was a report where they said one particular robot printing program, I think, did a Rembrandt. Like, and they made him do it a different size because they didn't want to make it an exact copy for Rembrandt.
Make an
So
actual-
you had to make it like a small version because it was the printing technology was that good.
Yeah.
So
MIT actually about 4 years ago, they were the first ones to invent the tattoo machine. It was a tiny little one, and it was enough to put a forearm in, and it did an absolutely flawless tattoo on a person's arm. It was a very simple design, but it was absolutely flawless.
so there's your answer. Yes, it's been done.
Yeah, but it's coming.
So yeah, that I don't think is the hard part, really. I don't think the administering the tattoo, like you said, is making it like, you know, when they make a painless tattoo, because they've already made, you know, here I go with my soapbox, but they've already made like tattoo removal machines. So like every idiot is gonna go out and be like, oh, now it's painless,
Yeah,
and I can get it removed tomorrow.
Besides that, all that CBD oil and you know, being very trendy right now, I would going to say, you know, so I lost my train of thought. Where I was going.
You said, oh, the CBD oil, does it have a pain element in it?
Oh, there we go. That's what I was going with. Yeah, the massive market for anesthetics has exploded. There are so many products now that have, you know, up to 4% lidocaine, you know, to help numb the skin. They've pretty much taken out the pain of getting tattooed now for the most part, which is, you know, again, if you're an old school guy, you want people to kind of earn that tattoo or the rite of passage to wear it, you know, but
I agree.
that's gone now. You know, people will sit for, like for instance, the old, like, mark of excellence on a weekend tattoo was to tattoo somebody for about 12 hours straight.
Right.
And now the mark of excellence is to tattoo somebody for 3 days straight for 12 hours for 36 hours.
Oh my God.
In complete, yeah.
Jesus, are you serious?
That's it. Complete entire back pieces in one weekend to full color, full.
But what's that do to the skin? That's got to be hamburger, man. when you're done.
There's where we're at. So the least amount of damage caused by the rotaries helps, but I mean, there's just no way your
Dude,
body can.
we
do
watched Nikki Sixx get tattooed by 2 people, and he was like dying. I saw an interview where he talked about it. He was like, "Well, you know, it wasn't that bad, but I was there."
that. Yeah.
He was none too happy. He was like, "Okay, guys, I'm gonna take a break." And he got up and he pretty much disappeared after that. He was gone. So I couldn't imagine, and that's 2 people tattooing for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So 36 hours. What?
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, can you imagine going through 12 and then going to your hotel room and crashing out and then knowing that you wake up in the morning, you're about to do it again and then another time after that? That's just mentally.
I think the longest I got tattooed by you was at a convention. That was like, what, 7-8 hours?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think 8 hours is like that's a great number. You know, I think most people for 8 hours that's their threshold. You know,
I was pretty much done after 8. I know I can't. I ain't even lying. I was done after 8. I was done after 6.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, and 8 was pretty rough. But hey man, you got to pay to play.
That's it.
That's where we got.
Some people just got that ability.
Have either of
they
you-
can hang.
What's that, Steve?
Have either of you had acupuncture?
Well, I'm currently having it right now.
And I'm administering it. I've never actually had that. No, not at all.
I have localized. I had a back issue, and I had in the lower cluster of whatever on the base of my spine. I had them, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It helped, but it wasn't anything crazy.
Well, that's needles too. Was it particularly painful?
No, but it's also like the needles are really, really tiny, and they put them in really localized spots, and it's not like this. I mean, this is, you know, you got a needle jumping in and out of this machine. How fast does it go? You know?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know the exact number on that. I know it's well into the thousands of you know, what are you going to call revolutions per minute, but I don't know the number.
Right.
You know, and especially the other thing too is that even the rotary, just like the old coils, they're completely adjustable by my power supply, which is hidden down here in my work desk, and that runs off of the different amperatures. I'm running at a 10.0, and you can run that anywhere from a 5 down up to like a 14 or 15 before the thing's a maniac.
Dude, we're getting nerdy in here talking about tattoo
you know,
machines. This is great.
So that aperture, you know, changes the setting of the machine completely. I mean, you're talking doubling and tripling the speeds. So
Right.
where I'm at 10 amps, I'm not really sure exactly what speed that's at.
Right. There you go. Something for we're gonna nerd out and find that out sometime. Maybe.
Maybe. I got nothing to do for a very long time.
Yeah, right. Some dude sitting around going, I'm so freaking bored. Let me find out how many revolutions a minute my tattoo machine puts out ink. That's it.
I'll tell you, I've seen some really neat videos on Instagram and all that where people slow down their video using their iPhone or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
And even that slow motion, man, that thing's moving along. So it's
It's cranking.
pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I have seen that too. So when you started tattooing, what was the everything like back then? Like, what was this? Like, I know everything comes in styles and waves. Like, things come popular.
Sure.
Like, what was the thing then? 21 years ago.
Yeah, right, man. Well, I mean, you know, the honest beginning of my career was in the barracks in the Marine Corps. So everybody that knows me knows that that's where we actually started. And that's with our good friend Smitty. And you know, we started tattooing each other in the barracks, and then we have tattooing the guys in the barracks, and then on and on and on. And I think back then we were just beginning the tribal phase of this whole business. You know, it's just, let me tell you, right now, that is a nightmare for us. So all those tribals we did back in the 90s are now coming back to haunt us, because now these 45 and 50-year-old men, they got those damn armbands and those lower
Yeah,
back
and they
pieces.
all want them covered
They
up.
want them covered up. Yeah, we all hate each other.
And you're like, let's see, what can I do with that giant big block of black?
Big old block. and artists that were really good, man, we hammered in that.
Oh, yeah, because it's still black, and it probably still looks great. I actually saw a guy the other day that had a tribal, armband, and I was surprised that he's a Florida boy, so like he's out in the sun all the time, and it looked great. I was like, damn, I want to talk to the guy that gave me that tattoo.
God.
Give him some props.
So, you know, we were started out back in the 90s. That was the main trends like that. There were still lower back pieces. People still hiding tattoos. Females definitely were hiding their tattoos way more than they are now. You know, if you want to talk about stuff like that, you know, the difference between men and women getting tattoos, the percentages, we're way above 50% now in females getting tattooed. They're definitely around the 60 percentile of being tattooed more than men. We have more female clients than male clients.
Is there a demographic now? Back in the day, it used to be, I mean, it literally, I mean, the cliche, the bikers, the rebels. I mean, if guys got tattooed, you know, if you were a cop and got tattooed, it was like an eagle,
Yeah.
or, you know, but I mean, those were the those were the demographics back in the day. What about now?
Yeah, I'd say, man, we have transcended past all that now. We are completely mixed across the board in as far as getting tattooed. Color does not matter. There's almost as many minorities getting tattooed as there are, Caucasian, if you want to say that. Your female to male ratio is
because that was a big thing back in the day too. Is the way to transfer color onto different skin tones. What was the deal? So a lot of folks didn't get tattooed of color because they were afraid they couldn't see it.
Absolutely, yeah, that's long gone. We figured out how to tattoo in different styles that are more bold and graphic, and man, they get tattooed just as much as anybody else. I'd say our client base here is probably 60% white and 40% minority, which is pretty darn close to being equal.
Right.
And not nobody's upset about that. Like you would think that you would be clamoring for, just give me the light skin to tattoo, but man, they're doing just as cool stuff too. You just change your style to do something that's more of like a trash polka or a bold graphic or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're still doing cool stuff.
So speaking of trash polka, like the first time I ever heard about that was from Ink Masters, which you were on. You were on season 6 of Ink Masters. For those who at home who might recognize this man, was that a positive experience in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold on that.
I have other questions about it, but I just kind of wanted to ask that.
Sure. In the first place, doing that kind of a thing is a huge promotional opportunity. And so I would say, as far as promotions, that thing was outstanding. Being nationally recognized on a TV show that's very popular is excellent for your business.
Right.
On a personal level, that's a different story. There's a lot of people don't understand that you're filming that show. If you go all the way like I did to the finale, you're gone. Almost 3 months. You have other obligations when you get done filming. You have to do some circuit work. You got to be traveling, and you got to take care of other.
That's all part of the contracts through them.
All part of it, exactly.
Yeah.
So in the end, you kind of end up maybe being gone a little too much, but that's your choice, and it worked out for the better as far as promotion. Our business here did very well from that, and my business did well from that, and I still can't go to Walmart without somebody saying something to me like, "Hey, where's your overalls?"
Where's your overalls?
That's it.
Right.
So,
Right. It's funny.
that's always funny, But I would never do it again. But I'm happy I did it the one
Once
time.
in a lifetime thing.
There you go.
That's great.
Right. I agree with that.
It's funny is that you were getting calls for that kind of stuff, like I want to say since the beginning of those kind of things happening.
Absolutely. And in fact, it was season 2 that they started that bombarding us with calls. And
Well, even before that, I want to say that we were in, was it Kansas City when you got a phone call? We were someplace, and I remember you getting a phone call, somebody asking you if you were interested in being on a show. And this was before Miami Ink. This was before all that stuff. And I could be off, but I remember the conversation pretty much going like, okay, I kind of know where I am in the business. How many of the guys of my caliber have you talked to and have turned you down? And pretty much everybody turned whoever that was down. Because at the time, there's kind of a rep thing, kind of a, I don't know, maybe I'm saying the wrong word.
no, I agree with you. I think there was a severe block on the people in our business that were in the upper echelon were just kind of saying no to the television shows. I don't think anybody really understood what those shows could do for promotion for you. But we also kind of thought, what right do you have as a TV show to come in and look at what we do? We're the ones earning the right to be here, kind of thing. So I agree. I remember the time frame we're talking about. I think we're talking about the mid 2000s,
right?
And I think everybody we know turned that show down. I think.
Yeah, and actually we talked about it to some of the other guys. Actually, one of the guys I want to say that I talked to about it was he was on the show with you, St. Mark.
Oh, there you go.
He was at that show, and I mean he was talking about how somebody actually called him and talked to him about that show as well. Which is funny is that they went from those caliber of guys, and I'm not talking any trash about anybody who was on that show, but they went from all these huge big name, back then it was magazine guys, because you didn't have the internet, you didn't have any of that, the internet wasn't what it was now.
Right.
And it was, I think I was pretty shocked that I saw the people that they got, which were people that I'd never heard of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, I mean, I can name off a couple of names for sure that were part of that original group that were not going to do TV shows, you know, and within 1 year of Ink Master popping, or Tattoo Wars, which is the one that we kind of snuck on there for the South Florida edition. And,
right. I remember seeing that. Actually, I do remember that.
That's the one, yep. And then Tattoo Nightmares and a couple other ones, you know, Ink by Me, etc. That all of a sudden we started seeing these same people that we talked to that were like, yeah, screw that. Who are all of a sudden on TV shows. Matter of fact, at least one of them ended up being a full-time judge for a whole series that's no longer.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Right.
So people figured out that, you know, promotion is promotion. Now, let me tell you something funny. I was sitting on my Instagram yesterday, and I was listening to watching some feeds, and a specific artist who I'm quite fond of, I think he's a good artist, posted the email from the producer of Ink Master for season 13, and said and the email said, hey, we know we reached out to you before, are you interested in this season? And his exact answer was essentially in a polite way of saying, fuck off. And I told you before, I told you now, but he posted that. And his feedback from people was absolutely crazy on the people that were supporting him on telling that show where it could see itself. And I was actually kind of surprised by that. I thought more people would be, you know, supportive of this.
Wanting him to go on too.
There it is.
I don't know, man. See, I'm watching what you went through on that show, and anybody but at home will watch the show. If you don't, it's on YouTube or whatever. You can go watch it. I didn't agree with the decision that they made, and granted, it is a reality-based TV show. So, you know, they're going to do what they're going to do for whatever ratings or whatever.
I think the wording that I like to tell people all the time is, you know, they're going to make TV, and your career doesn't matter to their TV. So if your career gets in the way of their TV, they'll just move you out of the way. But if your career can help,
that's a pretty good way of putting it. Yeah.
So
I guess the Tuttles from American Chopper will probably agree with you 100% on that.
There we go.
And that's where I would that's how I knew about that. I worked at Harley for quite some time, and I felt the same way about what the TV shows were doing to the motorcycle industry as what they ended up doing to the tattoo industry. Some of it bad, some of it good. Some people that saw the things that happened on TV and thought that that's the way it was. And half of that shit was made up for TV. It really wasn't that way at all. And so I knew, you know, I worked with you right after that here in Florida, and when Miami Ink started, I got to see a lot of that. How people saw what they were putting out there, and then they would come to, you know, so our shop's here in Florida. So they would come to the shop, and they were like, yeah, I want to get this and this and this. I want to get this portrait this big, you know. And you have to explain to them, no, they can't, but Kat Von D does.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, all right.
It's not real. You know, I always tell people the other thing too is, you know, the real superstars of those shows are the editors. You know, they can take anybody and turn them into anything they want. As long as they have enough content
to make it work. You're absolutely right. I always laughed when people would come to the shop and they'd be like, I want to get this. Can you text me today? And I'm like, no. They're like, well, I'm just going to go down to the South Beach and go to Miami Ink then. I was like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Thing.
It's not a real thing. That's right.
Yeah, I actually walked in the doors. That's a funny story.
Well, I don't know about Miami. That show called Merlin's, and it was an actual, you know, operating tattoo shop. And then when they decided to make Miami, whoever that production company was, they actually bought Merlin's from the owner, and then changed the name and changed the look inside. You know, and eventually that became known as Miami Ink, like it is now, and it's owned by Ami now. But he had to buy it from that production company. Right.
So when the show was actually going on, the deal was that there were different people in there tattooing during the day, and then they would have the cast come in and film and tattoo then.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. The cast wasn't there during.
People would walk in and be like, "Where's Ami?"
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, in New York, probably at his own tattoo shop. But yeah, that was an interesting time, just seeing how everything changed. Like I said, how do you think that, like, the Miami Ink culture and TV and everything, how do you think it changed it for the good?
Oh man, so, you know, the good thing about all of the massive amount of if you want to call it exposure tattooing got was one, it mainstreamed it. It is definitely more accepted and more understood. It tenfolded increased the technology, hence where we end up with the rotaries, the disposables, the cartridge systems, all that. And the status is, it's a money thing. Necessity is the mother of invention, and the people that have the money are the ones that's going to profit from that. But
Right.
for us on the back end of that, although we have to pay for it, this is a much better product. This is safer, it's cleaner, it's better for us to use, it does a better too. And it is what it is.
I think that actually helps with the demographic too. When we talked to you, back in the day, there was a demographic. You did have a certain type of person that would get tattooed or look to get tattooed.
Yeah.
Now it's anybody.
Yeah, and there you go. There's the major push on that. Is it's just okay. It's accepted. It's normal. It's not weird. I know a specific person who, just went and got a forearm tattoo from wrist to elbow, who was in a medical facility and probably has no damn business or right having that tattoo on her forearm, but that she's now moved on, and it's not even going to be frowned on in her business. It may be just overlooked. So that's it's normal,
I hate to admit this, but I was at Ultra last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I was at Ultra, and all the cops that were, or police officers, pardon me, that were parking everybody and they were doing all the security and stuff, over half of them had sleeves. It was the craziest thing I have seen. I don't know if that's got to be a Miami thing, to where they just need people so bad. They're like, we don't even care, bro. We don't
Well, I'll tell
whatever.
you, we tattoo probably 20% of our business here is somebody in uniform. We're big uniform shop. We prefer
Right.
those kind of people. We like to work with people that work for a living, we call it.
Right.
So we're intimate on a lot of the knowledge on that stuff, and it's definitely by the area. So depending on what that department's policy is how their people are going to be. We have firefighters in Davie, which is next to Hollywood,
Right.
and Davie can have full sleeves and Hollywood cannot.
Wow.
And that it totally changes. So unfortunately, we'll get a lot of business from one, but not from the other.
That's weird. I didn't know that.
What are you saying? Are you saying the laws against specific types of tattoos? Is that what you're saying?
He's asking, is the laws? It's not laws against it.
No.
It's he tattoos police officers, firefighters, first responders, and depending on the department, like whether it's for Indianapolis, whether it be like Marion County or another county, like one would allow you to have tattoos, another county would allow or not allow you to have tattoos. And it's the same way around here. That's what he's saying. So it's like in Miami, they're much more lenient for the police officers, apparently, of the tattoo policy, as they are in some place like Deerfield. Because Deerfield, I don't see any police officers with.
Yeah, I think you're dead on with that.
Do people have to get their tattoos removed if they want to be in specific police departments?
They definitely have a grandfather clause for everybody we've ever talked to, but I will tell you this. For instance, Palm Beach County just put through, I know for a fact that they just put through about 50 or 55 recruits through their sheriff's department. They're hurting for people. And but they had so many applicants that if you don't meet their criteria, they just simply walk right past you. So it's kind of more of a fact of how you come into the department is going to matter whether you get hired or not. But then once you're in, then you just got to follow the policy. But if you already have them and they hire you, you're grandfathered in. There's nothing they can do. They can't make you remove them.
Okay.
When we were in the Marine Corps, it was the same kind of thing. They didn't want you getting tattooed while you're in the Marine Corps. Of course, everybody did. But if you had tattoos, they had to pass. They had to approve those before you got to go ahead to even go to boot camp. So that's I'm sure they have some of that as well. You know what I mean?
And I'll tell you, those policies change too, depending on who the captain or the brigade commander or whoever it is at the time, because we will literally see them come here and start making appointments like crazy from a certain department, and they'll say to us,
get them to go ahead.
It
That's
changed,
crazy.
right? Yeah, their policy changed. Boom, they go crazy, just like that.
That's crazy. And then you get grandfathered in because you're like, oh, I already had this.
Yep, it got changed. Yeah.
That's great.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, what's your Steve? What do you know about tattooing? What do you know about this whole thing?
I know almost nothing about it. I read Ray Bradbury's The Tattooed Man, but I don't think that gave me much realistic.
He's more of the learned man. He's less of the street guy like you or I.
I bet a lot of intellectual types get tattoos, don't they?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Actually, my favorite. We talk about demographic wise. My favorite tattoo story from working for Chris was out of Pompano. The old guy in Pompano, Eileen. Remember, we know what I'm talking about.
I don't remember.
Guy walks in, he's probably 70-something years old. He walks in with his son, which his son's in his 50s. And his son, he says, I'm here to my dad wants to get tattooed. And kind of look at him. Does not look like anybody that would ever get tattooed. He's just that kind of guy. You know what I mean? Very, very nice. Super nice guy. Super friendly. He said he wanted to get his wife's name tattooed on him. And so we were like, okay, all right, you know. So we start the process of getting all that ready. What's her name? How do you spell her name? Do you have it written? That kind of thing. We're going through all that. So so nice, by the way, and so harmless that we were like, okay, where do you want it? And he said, I want it on my butt. And so he points to his left butt cheek. And Chris was all right. Well, you're gonna need to drop your pants and let me get. And he's standing in the lobby, and the guy just drops his pants in the lobby, and we're like, no. No, back here, come back here. And the guy's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I'm kind of nervous. I don't know what to do. And we're like, it's okay. So we bring him back to the booth, and he pulls his pants up, and comes back to the booth, and so he drops his pants, and we show him the font. He wants this big, bold Eileen on his rear, and so he's getting tattooed. And so as he's in the process of getting tattooed, I said, hey man, I gotta ask. You don't have any tattoos, do you? And he says, no, I don't have any. And this is my first tattoo ever. I said, how old are you? He said, I'm 75. And I said, what makes you want to get your wife's name on you at 75 years old? And his answer was the best answer ever, ever, ever. He says, that woman's been on my ass for 50 years, and I want her on my ass for 50 more. So I'm pretty sure Chris tattooed him for free that day.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Chris was like, sit down, this is on me.
Yeah. As soon as you started talking about it, I knew exactly what you were talking about.
Right? Well,
and the best part of that thing was that he got that tattoo, remember, and he was like, you could just see in his eyes, he wanted somebody to ask him, like, ask me,
please ask
me why I got this damn tattoo. That was the best
I've been
part,
working on this punchline for a week.
Yeah. That whole tattoo for him was like a joke. It was like a punchline for him, but it was real. It was his wife.
And the funny part is, I was like, "You gonna go home and show her?" And he was like, "Hell no, she'll kill me." That was the best.
Yeah, that was a good. That's a really good one.
Yeah, that was a fun time. Yeah. She's been on my ass for 50 years. I want her on 51.
That's right.
It's like, why are you gonna go home and show her? He goes, hell no, she'll kill me. So, Eileen, if you're there, if you're listening, Eileen,
that's it.
you're the best tattoo story I've got so far. Actually, the nicest tattoo story I've got so far. Yeah, on your husband's ass. Good job, Steve. That's great. You have a better tattoo story than that? What's your favorite tattoo story, Steve? Or Chris?
Yeah, man, you know what? Sorry, I got so many stories over the years. And the thing is, they go back, like you said, they go G-rated, X-rated. Which way do you want to go with this?
It's the internet. We can talk about anything.
That's right. I'll tell you.
We'll talk about. We'll keep you nice.
I'll tell you my one of my fun crazy stories. One of the weirdest tattoos I ever did. So back in Big Brain Omaha. There's back in we're talking about 04. The guy comes in and he wants to get a tattoo on his forehead, and the counter people kind of like slow him down a little bit, and they're like, what do you want to get? And he says, I want to get 666. Now this is, I need to preempt this by telling you that this guy's dressed Gothic, and this is Gothic before Gothic had a name. So it was just black trench coat, black boots up to his knees, whatever, greased back hair, all that crap. He was Gothic, and so you can imagine what he looks like. So he comes in and he says to the counter, I want to get 666 on my forehead. And I'm just not that guy that does that stuff very often. And so they lean over to me over the counter, and I lean I lean over to them and I tell them, I tell the guy to kick rocks, and so off he goes, out the door. And next day he shows up again, same guy, same weird clothes, same everything. And I say weird clothes, not that I'm against any, type of style person. But
It's just for the time being.
Yeah.
His dress was out of place. He definitely stood out.
They just did not have that look back then,
Right.
And we're talking about Omaha, Nebraska, not exactly the cutting edge of style.
Right. The mecca of fashion.
That's right. For those that did watch season 6, those overalls, by the way, those were an homage to Herbie Husker, just so everybody figured that out.
They didn't really tell about that. But go look up Herbie Husker.
So the guy comes in the second day and he says, "Hey, I want to get that 666 on my forehead," and I'm a little more annoyed with the guy, and I just tell him, kick rocks again. So off he goes, and at this point I were kind of like laughing, and then he comes in on the third day, and he skips right past the counter people this time. He's not even going to bother with them. He walks right into my booth, my room, and he says, "Look, I'm going to get this tattoo on my freaking forehead." And, it's going to say 666, and it's going to be right out there in the open, and everybody in the whole world's going to see this tattoo on my forehead. So I want it done right. Would you please do this tattoo for me, And he says, I'm not all fucked up. I'm not on drugs. I'm not, wasted or nothing like that. And so I said to him, man, if you're going to talk to me like a gentleman like that, then all right, I'll do this tattoo for you. So
that's all it takes to make huge decisions. Bad decisions, folks. Be a gentleman.
That's right. Talk nicely to me. Talk nicely to me, and I'll do whatever you want me to do. That's right. Listen, many dumb decisions in our lives, Ken, have been done over some polite conversation.
In 2004, it was a whole lot different. Life was different. You're talking to younger Marines that were just like, all right, your life.
What do you want? So, I'll go to church on Sunday.
Exactly. I'll pray for you, buddy.
That's it. So, so the guy goes, he picked out some nice numbers, and we put them on his head, and we did them real big, like about an inch and a half.
I remember.
Forehead to forehead,
These things were like,
that's
bro.
It.
Like giant.
Yeah, and that's it. So we tattooed him, man. It turned out real sharp, good, clean work. That's exactly what he wanted. And so the story gets weird is that, so we go through all that, and then...
This is where the story gets weird.
Yeah.
It didn't get weird before this.
Before that was dead normal, But so the guy pays his money, whatever he does at the front counter, and then he walks out. Now everybody's been to Big Brain, Omaha. It's kind of on a busy little street there. I think it's Jackson Street, and right in the old market. And
shout out to Big Brain One.
There it is. Woo-woo. And you walk out that front door, and you could have anywhere from a good couple dozen cars right there coming at you. And the guy just walks right out the front door and just walks right across that street, doesn't look left or right. Cars are squealing their brakes as they're going to just smash this guy. And he doesn't give one shit. He doesn't care one bit. He literally is floating across the street.
If I could do his face, he literally just kind of went like this, stuck his neck forward, and kind of walked right headlong into just traffic.
Yeah. And the thing was, because we had all seen the guy walking out, we were all watching him, so we all saw it. And it was like literally watching Satan float across the street. We weren't even sure what just happened.
Yeah.
And and I remember thinking to myself, I just tattooed the devil.
Yeah.
And I'm fucked now.
All he was missing was the official stamp.
Yeah.
Bink. Like as soon as he got it, like his whole thing, he was just like, now I create mayhem.
Yeah, it was like God gave me 3 chances to say no, and I just fucked it up on the third one.
You're like, why not?
Sure, give me the crack pipe. I don't care.
Funny. Oh, it was so bad. Yeah, we all sat in the shop when a guy got up, because when he got up, it's like his whole demeanor changed. He wasn't rude. He wasn't mean. He was still polite, but he just kind of got up and had that crazy look in his eye, just like, I think maybe it hit him. That he was like, now I am the son of Satan.
That was it, yeah. Well, know what was the weirdest thing to me, man? That was it's called 04. That's probably about where it was. In Omaha, Nebraska, you're going to run into some dick with 666 on his forehead somewhere. Somewhere
Still,
you're going to see this guy, right? To this day, not one person at Big Brain Omaha, not one person at 7-Eleven, not one person at any club we've ever been to has ever seen this guy ever again. And that's the weird part of the story.
That is the truth, because I stayed there until 06 or 07, and I never ran into the dude ever after that.
That's the
and the
weird
old
thing to
market
me.
was you had to.
That's a
run
little scary.
He ascended to hell
He ascended, yeah. He was
right after that.
Yeah.
He floated over to Jackson's ice cream shop, got ice cream, and then went to hell. That's what the fuck happened.
That was it.
I think for me, I had to kind of like come to its own little funny terms with this guy, later on. And I kept saying to myself, the only way I could justify this guy is that he had to have been terminal, maybe cancer or something, and all he wanted to do was just, do all his crazy things he wanted to do. I'm going to dress up Gothic. I'm going to walk across the street without looking. I'm going to get 666 on my forehead.
Like, right.
Yeah, that, he had to do whatever.
Strangest bucket list ever.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all I could. That's the only way I could justify what I just did. That was going to ruin my soul for eternity.
The one that got me, the one that freaked me out. I mean, that was a little freaky, but the one that freaked me out was the guy who had the disease to where it felt like he was burning. So he got a portrait of himself burning on his arm, and he didn't tell about it until after he was done of why he got that. And do you remember that?
I don't remember that guy.
Oh, dude, freaked me out so bad. He was like, so I have this disease. As he's getting tattooed, he had this tattoo
You sure
of
this
this
isn't
guy.
a story I told you after I tattooed that 666?
No,
No, kidding, go ahead.
it's the fire in the back here. No, this dude, this was Pompano. And this dude wanted to get this guy in flames. And it was actually pretty cool. We didn't know the context, and he wanted it on his arm. So Chris's tattoo him. Actually, it was like the second sitting. And so we asked the guy, like, what's the, tell me, Ami James, what's the story behind your tattoo?
Right.
And the guy's like, well, I have this disease, and eventually it will, it's terminal, but it's like this excruciating pain, and it makes my nerve endings feel like I'm on fire. And we were like, oh.
Okay.
Oh, all right. And so he wanted he wanted basically a visual depiction of what he's going through, and that was kind of creepy. That was weird to me.
One of the neat things about tattooing weird tattoos is if you ever see them again. And I got one that just happened the other day. The guy we tattooed, I don't know if you remember, we had freehand this whole crazy roller coaster on his arm, and it was going in and out of all these different faces that were like hell faces. And he was talking.
Oh, I don't remember that. I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
I
And this guy was hard to deal with, and he was definitely on the back end of a rehab, and all these roller coasters. He was talking about going through the mouth was him going into these parts of his life that were hell and coming out better or whatever.
Oh, yes.
And that guy showed up here about 2 months ago, and I mean we're talking 10 years later.
Yeah.
And he's clean. He's got a family and kids, and that tattoo's still on his arm, obviously. But he's moved on to other better tattoos. But he's a pressure washer guy. And he actually pressure washed my house the other day. But
That's great.
So we went from like rehab and hell to pressure washing.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I some of these stories are insane. You get everything from like that for the guy that obviously that was a big deal in his life, for him to go through that kind of stuff, and then
Somebody wanted to know if that was a tattoo of a bikini girl.
a bikini girl.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, bikini girl.
Cat.
Yeah, cat named Marley.
Cat named Marley, the bikini girl.
I still voted for the show logo. Bro.
Yeah, I know. Doug voted for the show logo, of course, just because it's Doug's show. So,
It's actually
Doug would've-
I mean, I gotta tell you, your people are nice because I would have really jacked you up. I would have said something. really
dude.
screwed
Okay,
up.
so I only gave him two choices. At first, I gave you unlimited choices.
The show logo.
I deleted that like 5 seconds later because I was like, no. Somebody's gonna come up, "Yeah, dirty underpants," or
Yeah.
something stupid. Because that's what you guys do.
Yeah, I think the next contest you should just do something more fun and just be like artist choice. Just let him do whatever the fuck he wants. We'll blindfold you.
Oh.
Give like a 4-inch square and just see what the
that'd
hell
be fun.
happens. Yeah, that'd be a lot more.
Says the guy who's in Indiana who's not getting tattooed. That'd be fun.
Yes.
Listen, Steve, we're about ratings here, right? That's what's the matter. It don't matter about Ken's legs.
Yeah.
Screw him.
Yeah. Forget my legs.
we're here for us.
Yeah, I want to let you all know that you guys don't know how far this rabbit hole can go, because there's some tattooists that we know out there that have penis tattoos, that grown men who do, you know what I'm talking about, right? With the beards and the lion manes and they have various.
Oh my God.
Oh, dude, it's they think it's the funniest thing in the world.
Well, I'll tell you, here's the thing, though. The Instagrams and the Facebooks and social medias have absolutely exploded our industry, obviously. You know, before you used to get promoted, you needed to be in place somewhere for a photograph or a magazine or something like that, and that clearly is long gone. You know, we're down to just instant posting and instant fame out of every tattoo. But part of that, you know, kind of weird nonsense is that you now have the shock value. And that's the other part of our industry that's gone rampant crazy. The shock value being that if you can do a tattoo that's just plain crazy, just a straight up vagina, porn shot, porn perfectly done realism of porn scene, that kind of thing, it's not taboo. It's absolutely normal. You know, and
That's
you'll
insane.
get.
There used to be a magazine
4,000
called
likes.
Taboo, which was the stuff that was all blue material. You know what I mean? Stuff that's like. It was
There
really,
you go. You'll get likes. You'll get thousands of like.
well,
So,
that's just shock, though.
yeah, exactly. So it's not. You know, there's not much that isn't considered somewhat kind of normal. Although I still like to think in my heart of hearts that maybe on social media that's pretty cool, but when you walk into a job interview or something, that might be frowned upon. you know,
So, Derek, tell me about your vagina tattoo on your lower part of your arm.
That's it. The one that I can see while you're at work.
What about offensive stuff like a swastika or something like that? Do people still ask for stuff like that?
I'll tell you, that's a great question. The whole thing with racism and any kind of anti-gay, anti-trans, anything, anti-Semitism, anything like that has completely gone away. That's not even even thought of anymore. If you're involved in that kind of tattooing, you are shunned.
Yeah,
you just don't do it anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's used to back in the day, and I mean, you know, not saying would never out anybody like that, because back in the day, if you were a tattooist, you were a tattooist. Some people definitely had lines they didn't cross. Other guys were like, hey man, that's what I do. You know what I mean? They didn't take it home with them. You know, that's just whatever. They look at it, it's like an actor playing a part. You know what I mean? Like, the guy plays a Nazi on TV, goes home, he's not a Nazi. You know what I mean? Now, again, I'm not condemning or condoning, I'm just saying it was a fact. And so that was a thing they usually find, you know, behind closed doors on a Saturday night, you know, at 3 a.m, some dude pays extra and he wants to get something crazy. Or you just had a dude who was a friend of yours with a tattoo machine that saw life like you did. You know, that was like back in the day. It was never, I never really ever heard of any of that stuff. Even when it was underground or whatever, I never heard of anybody actually doing that during daylight hours during a shop being open. I just never heard about that.
Yeah, that was a great question. They absolutely just not. You just don't do it anymore. You know, if there's a tattoo coming out somewhere brand new, then like Ken said, at most that's being done completely in secret. You know,
nobody wants to be attached to anything.
Yeah,
like
you
that.
would never post that ever.
Right.
Okay, is there such a thing as a tattoo artist who has no tattoos? Does that animal exist?
Yes.
What was this question?
A tattooist that has no tattoos.
Absolutely. One of the most famous tattoo artists in the world, named Anil Gupta. He's like Indian, Middle Eastern Indian. He's actually famous in New York City for doing the very, very tiny little postage stamp size portraits. Amazing work. He has no tattoos, and he's been tattooing about 25 years and has about a 1-year waiting list. And there's a couple other people like that, but he's the most famous one like that. And then the second thing is that, well, I'm sure you've seen or maybe haven't seen, but in general, the better the tattoo artist, the worse, crappier the work on them. As funny as that is.
That is exactly
and that usually
true.
meant that you were so busy learning and tattooing that you just didn't have time to get good tattoos. So that also happened.
Oh, that's,
I heard it about the other way.
That's
It's like
funny.
saying, I saw a guy that I revere in the tattoo world, and he had a couple really busted pieces, and I said, man, you know, for somebody who's you know, such an awesome tattooist, he was like, look, I'm great. My friends suck. He was like, who am I going to go to? I thought that was so funny. I was like, well, yeah, you know. He's like, and he does so much work all the time that he can't just sit down and take, 6 hours because he's always tattooing.
Yeah, good point.
It was pretty funny though. He was like, look, I'm the good tattooist. My friends suck.
Very true. Very true. So yeah,
Because you end up getting tattooed when in the tattoo business. You end up getting tattooed by your friends. So some guys are lucky enough to have all their friends are amazing. You know what I mean? Other guys, it's guys around your shop.
What it comes down to is just timing. Or do you have the time to sit around and get tattooed? I think we all started the same way. When we all started at the beginning of the industry and our careers of really wanting to get tattooed and get stuff on us, and then I'm into it and all that, and then there's a point in there where you don't give a shit anymore.
Right.
I have more unfinished work than I do work anymore. So
right.
And that just kind of becomes the standard, I would say. Although I know a couple of guys that still get tattooed every 2-3 months. I'm probably at once a year now.
That's cool. What's your last piece? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I got an anchor on my thigh. I was at what show was that? I was at Tommy's Tattoo Convention there in Connecticut. First time I ever did the show. Great show. And sponsored by Tommy's Tattoo Supply. And the guy's actual name is Tommy. He's a nice guy. And there was a younger guy across the hallway from me, and I just felt like getting tattooed that day. And I leaned over at him and I said, "Hey man, you got about an hour? I just want a cool anchor and on my thigh and all that." And apparently the guy was a fan from the show, and I did not know that.
He freaked out.
Yeah, he freaked out, exactly, which I thought was really cool, but he freaked out. And then he spent the next, God, I don't even know. Listen, the anchor is about 2 inches wide and about 3 inches tall. It's tiny.
Right.
And he spent, 6 hours drawing the anchor.
Trying to make sure it's perfect. For Christ's sake, it's on Chris Blinston.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly. I mean, I'm flattered on that, but it was fun.
That's funny.
So, but it probably took about an hour. And I'll tell you, at 45 years old, it doesn't take much to remind you how much getting tattooed sucks. It is still painful, and it gets more painful at 45 years old.
Yeah, and I'm older than him.
That's it.
So what's that say?
Oh man,
Look beautiful, by the way.
Are you in pain, Ken?
Am I in pain? I'm never gonna let you guys know that.
Oh, well, you're doing a pretty good job of not letting us know, assuming that you are in pain. Maybe
well,
you're enjoying
I guarantee I'm gonna be in pain tomorrow. So that's usually
Okay.
how that goes down. Yeah, it's.
What
What's
about
up?
people who tattoo themselves? Does that happen very often?
People that tattoo themselves, Chris? Does that happen?
oh
very
gotcha.
often?
Okay, well, so back in the old times, we're gonna call that in the 90s. Or
The old times.
The old times,
Back in the old days.
medieval times for me. Back when we first started tattooing, I think this is kind of standard for anybody that just first started tattooing. You're trying to figure out ways to learn how to tattoo. There's a lot of cool products now. The rubber pads, the fake body parts made out of that same kind of like flexible rubber that tries to simulate skin. It's not, to be honest with you, it's not very good at simulating skin, but it does a good job of accepting the ink into it. And so, it's good practice stuff. But we didn't have that stuff back then. And I'm sure you've heard like funny little stories. People like, oh, I heard a friend tattooed an orange or a pig's foot or
An
something.
apple. Somebody told me a potato.
There you go. So, and those stories are kind of true. At the same time, they're not. But, I was lucky enough in its own funny way that I had a whole barrack full of really not so smart Marines, just like myself. And they were just like, hey, tattoo away, man. So
You tattooing today?
yeah, exactly. So here's the best part is that they would pay me in beer.
Yeah.
So as I'm drinking the beer,
Your
I'm
tats.
practicing tattooing on
I'll
these
get
guys.
it's so good.
That's the best part. But so there was ways to practice. But to answer your question is that sometimes you didn't have that person that was there, and you just needed to practice that day. You felt you needed a little practice, so you would pull out your thigh, you would pull out your leg, somewhere you could reach, and give a little practice on that. Now, I was blessed that I only did very, very few, very minimal amount of work on myself, and I didn't have to tattoo myself. And then I went right into finding really amazing artists that I was fans of and getting them to tattoo me from there. So that's it.
That was cool. Yeah, it's fairly common, Steve. You'll have some people will I've actually heard some people that are pretty against it. But I don't know why. I mean, hey man, you're learning to tattoo. It's your tattoo. It's your body.
Yeah.
Go for it.
You know, this industry's changed a lot too with the the social media thing has done, I mean, good and bad. And you want to talk about some negative stuff. So one of the good things about social media, as far as being able to, you can book yourself in a private studio with social media by having people contact me through quote DM me or quote hit me here, hit me up here, hit me up there, and you can absolutely keep your whole personal schedule relatively full with that, without ever having to have an actual shop to walk into to book in a paper book. But one of the negative effects of that is that every small little young guy that doesn't feel like they can deal with a business owner or another shop owner, they will just go do a private studio, which is quote basically in their house, and they won't follow the laws and regulations that are required. But they can sustain themselves by using the social media. That kind of thing is, good for us because, again, I pull a lot of business off Instagram. I have about 60,000 followers, so I could pull, business off the Instagram in a couple minutes. But so can somebody else that's not tattooing legally. So kind of a double-edged sword on that weird little scenario.
Right. Do you find it's that's the other weird thing that I found out about, or that I feel about the modern day tattooing? I don't feel that some folks have gone by it, I don't want to say in the right way or the wrong way, but in traditional way, as far as earning a spot in a shop or earning it, you can go on Walmart.com and buy tattoo machines.
Yeah, oh yeah. Again, we're going back to the new way of TV shows. Here now you're getting into the negative effects of TV shows. So one of the negative effects is that because it has become mainstream, there's a lot of money involved. A lot of money involved means more products. More products means more accessibility. Exactly. You don't need to earn your tattoo machines anymore. You don't need to work in a shop. You can work solo. You can learn to teach yourself off YouTube videos. Funny enough, there's a handful of artists out there that are amazing from doing it that way, but there's also
a bunch of jacked up dudes.
That's it.
Well, see, that's the
and
thing.
girls too. There's
Well,
girls too.
I use the guys and girl. I use that as a generic. My apologies. Didn't mean to offend anybody. But it's funny. It's that's the thing that I find weird. That there's certain things in the tattoo business, like anything, like being a mechanic, right? Like you can pick up a wrench and start wrenching, but I think that there's certain knowledge that's passed down from mechanic that you wouldn't even know to ask if you just picked up a wrench and started doing it. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe a mechanic's a bad thing. But yeah, there's certain things that you wouldn't even know to ask those questions because you didn't even know that's a real thing.
Yeah, I think on top of that, you also have there's a little bit about, doing it the right way, just that little bit. I think that's the part that's gotten lost over time, is doing it the right way. Now, let me give you a little mini story. So this girl hits me up on direct message about a month ago, and she says, and I don't know who that is. It's they're just straight up DMing me, and on Instagram it says, "Hey, do you have time today for a little tattoo?" And I said, "Well, what are you thinking about doing?" I'll have to see if I have time because I'm usually booked up about 2 months, maybe 3 months. And the girl answers back and says, just this little kind of geometric design, maybe about an hour or two's worth of work, And I said, oh, okay, let me see if I can figure out something in my book, blah, blah, blah. And as we're going through that quick conversation, I realized on her Instagram, she posts while she's waiting for me to answer that question, whether I can get her in. If anybody is tattooing out of their house today, because she doesn't know if she wants to wait for a shop to find availability.
So while you're trying to find her room,
she's trying to find somebody that can just do it real fast in the garage.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I responded when I saw that. I saw the post, and now I'm out. I don't want to tattoo.
Right. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Because that's not the kind of business I want to be a part of, and there you go. There's that little bit of morals or morality that gets lost now with the availability of social media to be able to book somebody, because the same guy that's booking himself for today in his garage is on the same platform that I'm on booking myself at the shop.
Right. No, I got it. It's like going to a convention full of amazing artists and asking the dude if he can do letters.
Yeah,
I
well,
always thought that was funny.
the funny thing about letters, though, is that letters has now become an actual nationally recognized category. Which
Yeah, well, from the
cool.
different crazy fonts, but back in the day, it was just so funny. The guy walks up and he goes, "That's an amazing back piece. Can he? Do you think he can do initials?"
Yeah,
No,
you're right.
absolutely not. That's where initials are. Is like that's his kryptonite.
That's it.
He can do bold realism and full color bomb tattoos, but no, he can't.
You know,
Can't make an A.
Yeah. God, it reminds me of like, remember we were up there and remember we went to Long Island Tattoo Convention there.
Oh God, yeah.
And so we're standing there and we're kind of in awe because we're talking to, James and Tim Kern, who are good friends of ours back then out of Chicago. Now they're out of, I think, Oregon.
Right.
And
If you don't know who they are, twins, they're absolutely amazing. Amazing work.
James
Tattoo
Kern.
artist twin?
What's that? What'd you say,
Tattoo
Steve?
artist twins? Is that what
They're
you said?
twins, yeah. They're twins, and they were art majors in college. And when they got out, the medium they chose to work in was tattooing, and it shows. They're amazing.
Yeah, they both excel. I mean, they're in the big world of tattooing. At least in the late 2000s,
Right.
They were both considered top echelon.
Right.
James Kern still himself is. Tim's kind of moved on a little bit, but
Right.
James Kern is considered one of the fathers of cover-ups. So when you study the best cover-up tattoo artists in the world, you're studying a lot of.
For
James
those
Kern.
that don't know, cover that's a mistake. Being able to go back and actually do a piece of artwork over top of that not only covers it completely, but it's its own piece, is considered a cover-up. And there's actually a
That's
couple
the sort of thing that was covered in the Tattoo Nightmares.
Yes,
series,
that's
right?
exactly what they do. We
that
actually,
whole show's based on that.
yeah, the whole show is
Yeah.
all about cover-ups. That's Gus.
Yeah, Big Us.
Yeah, I got a funny story about Big Gus.
Yeah. I got a little story about that show too. So
Go ahead. So anyway, actually, I'm going to go ahead and go with my story with Big Gus. A icon in the tattoo world passed away in the last couple of weeks. Lyle Tuttle. If anybody doesn't know who Lyle Tuttle is, he's the godfather of modern tattooing. The reason why they do sterilization techniques and everything is partly because of Lyle and his impact in the business. He came from an old school. I was friends with Lyle. I liked Lyle a lot. Lyle had lots of friends. It's not like it was a rare thing for Lyle to tell stories. But he tells a story about how he got into tattooing. And funny enough is that we were hanging out at that convention with a gentleman named Big Gus, who was a huge fan of West Coast style like Jack Rudy and a bunch of other guys like that. And so when he heard that we were going to be having Lyle Tuttle hanging out in the room, he wanted to come. And he was like, "What, you hang out with Lyle Tuttle?" We're like, "Yeah, man, come on up." And so he's so excited to hang out with Lyle Tuttle, and Lyle Tuttle's telling about the first time he got tattooed. And he goes like, "Yeah, I get out, I go into this tattoo shop, I pick a tattoo, and the guy's like, yeah, it's $8. And I sit down, the guy tattoos me, and he's got a bucket. He's sitting there tattooing me. He's got a bucket behind him with a rag and black water in it. And when he would get done tattooing me, he'd take the rag and wipe down the tattoo and put the rag back in the bucket. That's how everybody tattooed back then." He goes, so he told me, clean it with alcohol. He said there was a bar next door, so I went next door, bought a bottle of vodka, threw it on my tattoo, wiped it in, and got drunk. And he said then after a while, I thought, hey, man, I want another tattoo. That wasn't so bad. So he goes back to the guy with the bottle of alcohol, and he says he wanted to kiss a tattoo, wanted another tattoo, and he picked out this battleship. And the guy said, all right, sit down. He tattooed him. He said he got done tattooing him. He handed the guy a $10 bill. And he said as he was talking to the guy, he realized the guy never gave him back change. So he whipped out a knife and he was going to cut the guy, and he told the guy that you just stole $2 from me. No. Tattoos are all kinds of different. So he was showing him how the different tattoos are different money. And he said that he liked the guy. He said he apologized, put the knife away. They started drinking the vodka back and forth together. And he said the next day he went and joined the guy and they started tattooing together. So that's how Lyle got into tattooing, by almost killing a guy over $2.
Over $2. Yeah. I'm better off dead. Where's my $2?
He's like, hey, where's my $2?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But the long story short, his tattoo shop was actually right next door to the bus station in LA. So he'd get all of the, this is the 60s, the late 60s. So he'd get all the hippies coming in, and first place they stopped was Lyle because they had to show their newfound freedom and independence, and they would get tattooed. He said, he was telling me, this is where the Gus story comes in. He said, sitting there one day tattooing, and his door flies open, and there's this girl in this long fur coat with these 2 dogs. He says, she said, are you Lyle Tuttle? And he goes, yeah, who the fuck are you? She goes, I'm Janis Joplin. He goes, who the fuck is Janis Joplin? And she says, I want to get tattooed. And he goes, well, take those dogs and get out of here. It's not a kennel. And he goes, come back and see me when you got the dogs. So she left, came back, and then she walked in. She said, Lyle, I heard about you. And he was like, yeah, whatever. And then he finally found out who Janis Joplin was. But he's the one that gave her a little tattoo. Now, these are the stories. I will say this, that I love Lyle to death, and those stories did change slightly depending on
the number of cocktails.
Depending on the number of cocktails and various other things that were going around at the time. But rest in peace, Lyle Tuttle. But as he's telling that story, you got Big Gus, and Big Gus is going, but then what happened with the coat? Or what happened with the dog? And he's like, okay, and he keeps like, all right, just calm down. And so about the third time of interrupting Lyle, Lyle goes, hey man, you're doing a lot of this. Try this. And I turned around and looked up. I was like, oh, Lyle just told you to shut the fuck up. So, that was so funny. True story, ladies and gentlemen, true story. But yeah, Lyle Tuttle. But anyway, I'm sorry, I cut off your story. You said you were talking about back in the day, man.
Yeah, we're just talking about like going out to Long Island doing that thing. You're talking about meeting Jack Rudy of all people. And,
yeah.
We were out there. If you remember when we went out there, I think we brought 14 people to that show. That was
that was the first big show. That's the first big show to go.
And so we're standing there talking to the Kern brothers, and then we look over and there's Jesse James, the motorcycle builder.
Yeah, I got a funny story about that too. Go ahead.
He's talking and he's talking to Jack Rudy and so we go over there and this goes to that change thing, the money thing, and he says, I want some of those stickers. I'm a big fan of Jack Rudy, who's been on TV. He's famous. He's been around 50 years, blah, blah, blah. And he's got some stickers. Already laughing. If this is going to turn out.
Yes, it's a funny story.
But, and I walk over there, this young, full, I'm full of piss and vinegar because I think I'm good and blah, blah. And I said, I pick up these 3-4 stickers, and I think 3 stickers or whatever, and I hand him like a $10 bill or whatever, $20 bill, and I look at it for change, and he looks at me and he says, listen, you little shit. It says right there on the sign, 4 fucking stickers for $20. So pick you out another damn sticker and get the fuck out of here. In all my toughness, I was like, yes, sir. Grabbed my sticker and walked away.
Even funnier, so another friend of ours, Brad, another tattoo convention, and Jack Rudy's got a booth there. This is in Houston when we did it. Was it Houston? The Live Fast?
Yeah. Austin.
So we're in Austin. And so my buddy, we all went down there together, and so he's the other guy, and he sees Jack, and he's like, man, that's Jack Rudy. And I was like, yeah, go say hi to him. By this point, I'd known Jack Rudy. We had seen him at a few conventions.
At this point,
friendly.
Friendly, I'll say. As long as you buy a stamp sticker, you're good.
Yeah, right. We survived the sticker debacle. But so my buddy walks up to him, and he was like, hey, so you have any more shirts? And he says, what size do you wear? And he says, I wear extra large. And he was like, this is a medium. Jack says this is a medium. And he goes, okay. Do you have any extra large? And he goes, no, all I have is this medium. It'll fit you. Here, $15. He takes his 20, gives him 5, and shit throws him the medium shirt. And so we got home. He was like, "Hey man, you want this shirt?" I was like, "Why'd you buy it?" He was like, "Well, Jack didn't give me an option. he
tell
made
him
me
no,
buy
yeah.
it." It's like, "You gonna tell Jack Rudy no?" I was like, "No." That was so funny.
Good. So many stories like that.
If you know Jack Rudy, if you don't know who Jack Rudy is, if you know who Jesse James is, and you ever watched the Jesse James TV show, he's the one that did Pay Up Sucker, and on his hand he also did the Jesse James. He said it was his family crest. That's what he told me when he showed it to me. He's like, he did my family crest, and it's a $100 bill with Jesse James' face with flames coming off the edge. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's definitely, I mean, he's one of like the godfathers of West Coast portrait style, kind of beatniks style.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely amazing. That black and gray kills that black and gray stuff, man. All that crazy font, what I call it gangster font.
Gangsta.
Gangster. Him and Boog.
The guy, here's a funny story, and you know, everybody knows everybody kind of thing, but that guy we're talking about with that funny roller coaster, he, the tattoo I just did on him, he actually called up Boog because he saw something in a magazine, and he called up Boog and asked him if he would do some font for him, some lettering, and send it here to be tattooed. And then the guy's like, "Who you got tattooing it?" And we're friends with Boog, and he said Chris Winston, and then Boog didn't charge him a penny, did it for free.
Nice. That's cool.
Right? Super cool.
Yeah, Boog's a cool cat. I hung out with him at the very first tattoo convention in Kansas.
Wichita.
Yeah, no, not Wichita.
Kansas City?
I went out there with a tattoo magazine that I was doing commentary with, and they had their very first tattoo convention because they had made tattooing legal the week prior. And the amazing part about it is that there were like 45 shops there, and I was like, for tattooing being illegal, you sure got a lot of tattoos.
You got a lot of shops around here.
It's crazy. That's funny how you just came legal last week and there was already like 5 shops and a chain of other shops. There's that one guy who has the construction worker who had 4 tattoo shops.
Who has some dumb money.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think Omaha had one of those guys too. I remember that back in the day.
The
plumber guy who was like, "I want to own a tattoo shop."
I think that's Smitty's best friend.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, hates that guy, right?
Hates that guy. God.
Yeah, we're just gonna show up and tattoo out of this trailer.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Remember Smitty shut that guy down at the Harley one time?
At my shop.
Yeah, your
The
place,
tattoo shop.
And that guy
At the
just
Harley shop.
That guy ate Smitty alive like the next few years.
Did he?
He like at the state building, and every time Smitty would go somewhere, they jack Smitty up.
That's funny.
It was like he talked with the wrong shark or something. You know?
Yeah, right. It's the politics of tattooing, ladies and gentlemen. And all we were actually trying to do is making
is the minute you do it, that white part just sucks that ink all around. So
Wow.
if you did blue, pink, red, white, whatever,
It's
I mean,
blue.
black, most people do black. That ink just completely changes the color of your white of your eyes to that color, and it's permanent. And that's something that the extreme body mod guys and girls do now.
We knew a guy who had blue. Is that right?
We had blue, and we knew a black, and we know a girl that has pink eyes now.
Oh, she's got pink eyes now.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, to me, that's
That
way
is
too extreme for
crazy.
me. Yeah, way too extreme.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Yeah, no. No, thank you.
You're like, yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
I'm out on that.
I checked out on that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There really is no coming back from something like that. I mean,
No,
apparently you can remove tattoos
there's
now,
not.
but-
There's no coming back.
No, and there's actually guys who, in the early stages of that, guys have got serious eye damage because they were stupid and didn't know what they were doing.
Well, not only that, what they're kind of discovering now too is that those people that did that, their night vision is becoming a problem. What's happening is that you needed who'd have thought there was science behind the light of your eyes, right?
Right.
You know,
Who thought you needed your eyes?
who the hell thought
Duh.
God made things certain
Who
way?
would have thought?
So what they're figuring out is that the white of your eyes, helps kind of reflect the light on the low light sources like nighttime, or dusk or dawn or whatever, and reflects that little bit of light that's out there up into the actual, I don't know what you would call the cornea, the seeing part of the eye, and without that extra bit of white around there, you're getting less light reflection up in there. So when all of a sudden you black out your eyes, so what people are having is they're having horrible, horrible night vision, and there's no fixing that. Man.
Wow. That's crazy. I didn't know it was that nuts.
Yeah, there's the side effect right there.
Huh.
All right,
What about
man.
you, Steve? When are you getting your eyes tattooed?
I'm getting my eyes tattooed